Welcome to the Time to Practice podcast on our summer of music practice tips. If you've never listened to the podcast before, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Christine Goodner, and I'm a music educator, author, and podcaster who has made it my mission to talk about music practice and to support music educators and families looking to make home practice more effective and to reduce conflict and frustration in the practice room. This episode is brought to you by my upcoming talk. It's actually coming up this Sunday, if you're listening to this the week it comes out. And it's for families of music students called Setting Up for a Successful School Year in Music Lessons on August 24th, 2025. This will be held at 2 p.m. Pacific time. And back to school is a great time to set intentions and routines for the year and remind ourselves of all of the things that can help support our child's music education for the year ahead. I will have one rate available for individual attendees and another for studios, and you can find information in the show notes of this episode or at suzukitriangle.com. Welcome back, everyone. I'm excited to be rounding out the month of August when these episodes are first coming out with two more podcasts about practice tips. That's been a great, fun thing to do in this current season. And today I am really happy to have some tips from a listener, Annette from New Zealand, where it is actually definitely not summer right now. And maybe it's not whenever or wherever you are listening to this. But I really appreciate her joining us with some practice ideas. And as she said in her email to me, we're still practicing year round, most of us. So whenever you happen to be listening to this, we hope you can take some of these ideas as inspiration. And I want to give a big thank you to Annette for sharing them with us today. So these are a couple of practice ideas that Annette is using with her child who is practicing at home. And she shares 3 with us in this episode. The first is a random sweet practice. So Annette shares that her son is 8.5 years old who plays the cello. And for his practice, he uses review cards with his mom. And most days they go through 12 to 15 of these cards. And so they have some that are in the review category, some are about learning a new section, and some are things that they do every day, like scales and note reading. So I think that alone, that is not the main point of this tip, but I think that is a great strategy for getting to all the practice tasks in one schedule. I love that idea. So she goes on to say, before the practice, we get out some dice, and my son gets to choose 2 numbers off of the dice. So each time he finishes a card, plays his review piece, for example, goes through his scales, whatever he happened to draw on the first card, he gets to roll. And if he gets one of his chosen numbers, he gets to take a small sweet from our practice jar. If it is not one of the chosen numbers, then there's not a reward for that particular repetition, but he can try again after the next practice card is done. And she goes on to say that if her son happens to not roll any of his special numbers that day to get to pick sweets during the practice, he does get to choose 3 anyway at the end. Sometimes he could earn more from working really hard. So I really liked that idea. And she says that, sweets works best for them, but you could use stickers, collect reward points towards a bigger treat. Not everybody has to incorporate sweets, but some sort of little incentive in the mix of practice, whatever works for your child. I love that idea. And I think gives it a little bit of a gamifying. There's not a set routine to practice every day when this game is played, and some students are going to really thrive on that. And also it's just fun to get those little rewards in the middle of our practice. I love that idea. So Annette's next tip is a variation on that similar game, which is a car race. And so in this one, her son chooses his favorite 6 little cars. You could use animals or any other little figures that you have around the house. And then after each piece that they play or review card that her child picks, then he gets to roll a dice. If he rolls a 2, the second car in the line gets to move 1 length forward. And if he gets a 3, then the car 3 goes. So sometimes they do it for a race. Sometimes the winning car gets a reward. So I love that, having some sort of little system to keep the cars moving. And I love that she points out there doesn't always have to be a prize. Sometimes it's just fun to move the cars or the little animals or whatever else you happen to be racing forward. Gives us a little break in our practice and keeps it fun and entertaining. And then the third tip that Annette sent along to us is a repetition game. So she says they play this game for little practice spots or tricky spots that need to be repeated multiple times. And a favorite variation they have going on at the moment is rescuing little toys from danger. So if they need to repeat a tricky spot 10 times, they find 10 little toys. A boat and a shark, she says. The little toys are swimming around the boat, and so is the shark. And every time the spot is played correctly, one of the little toys gets to jump into the boat and be rescued. And for every wrongly played turn, the shark gets to nip the toy, and her son has another chance to rescue it. And her son's very motivated, she says, because he doesn't want his little toy friends to get eaten by the shark. So I love that. That description definitely makes me smile. And it sounds like a very fun, engaging game. And it's a great way to feel motivated to get the repetition done well, which, young students and sometimes even adults in their own way need that extra bit of motivation that's not just about the music itself. So these are some great ideas. And they remind me how much work parents like Annette and many of you listening put into practicing with your child, and how individual it could be. Some of these ideas might work really well for your child. And maybe you think, oh, I'm not sure my child would enjoy that, but they would really enjoy this other thing that it makes me think of. And I think that's the magic of sharing our practice tricks and games with one another, as they can either give us something new to try or spark some new ideas for us to try that have been inspired by them. And I think it can really help to keep our child engaged in those repetitions. I'm often talking about the fact that older students who are more advanced, more mature, just might be in their teens and older, often are motivated to fix the little spot because they want it to be fixed, and they want to play it better, or they want to show up in orchestra and keep up with their friends and know their part. And for really young students, that motivation just for improving the music itself may or may not be there yet. And that's where all these different games and strategies can really help. So I hope you give some of these a try, or some of your own a try. Don't be discouraged if something does not connect with your child the way it might with somebody else. That just means we're still on the search for just the right game that connects with your child at this stage in their development. But a big thank you to Annette for sharing these with us and sharing her creativity with us. This sounds like there's lots of fun going on in practice and creativity and practice at your house. And I know you'll inspire others to try the same. If you would like to send a practice tip for a future episode, feel free to send it in the Google form that's in the show notes for this episode. I will keep collecting these and might have some periodic episodes throughout the school year sharing listener practice tips, because it's been so much fun to share them throughout the summer. I will be back with you next week to share a couple of practice tips of my own. And then we'll be back at the beginning of September with new interviews and back to our standard kind of routine of episodes for the school year. But I have really enjoyed sharing these ideas with you, and I know many of you have told me you've been enjoying hearing them. So hope you take these ideas as inspiration, everyone, and have a wonderful week of practice ahead. Take good care.